Hello and welcome to the Millennial Attorney. This podcast is dedicated to talking with attorneys who have found innovative ways to make their practice better. I'm your host, Summer Johnson. While I am neither an attorney or a millennial, I am the Director of Operations for Mott Legal. I use my knowledge as an MBA and experience working in the legal industry to help attorneys run their law firms as profitable businesses. Who is a millennial attorney? We don't mean someone with a JD born between 1983 and 1999. But rather a new way of thinking and practicing law. The legal industry is changing. There's increasing customer demands, growing technological influence, and an oversaturated legal market. All of these things present new challenges to the practice of law. The Millennial Attorney podcast offers insight into how to lean into the shift with business-savvy legal operations advice. Today I'm here with Christian Pudzer, creator of Casefriend. Christian spent 6 years as a civil litigation attorney. He then moved into the legal tech industry and has a passion for helping attorneys realize greater efficiencies in their practices. I'm super excited to hear the story today, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Summer.
Absolutely. So again, we like to start our podcast with a weekly win. This is kind of just a positive way to start everything. What's your weekly win? It could be personal, professional. What good happened to you this week?
Lots of good stuff. The biggest was we signed up a new customer and we had our initial meeting with the administrator. This is a 100-person firm.
Wow.
Casefriend has been in the market now for about 9 months. So to grab a customer that large and that significant was fantastic this week.
That is a win. That's
all before
awesome.
Wednesday.
Awesome. It's before Wednesday. So that's exciting. My weekly win is a little more personal. I just got back from Havasupai Falls. Havasupai Falls is on the Indian reservation here in Arizona, and you have to have special tickets to go. I hiked 50 miles in 4 days.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
exhausted, but made it back just in time for my birthday yesterday. So I'm excited to be here. Tell me, Christian, why did you become a lawyer?
My father was a lawyer, and I was raised. He brought me to depositions, to hearings, to trials, to his office on Saturdays. So I was really raised around attorneys. The people I knew growing up were attorneys, and I liked the practice of law. I'm a big fan of the Constitution and law in America and what it stands for.
Yeah.
So I was really driven towards that area. I also think that lawyers, whether you're a personal injury attorney, a criminal attorney, or a contract attorney, you are the philosophers of today. There's a lot of thinking and analyzing, developing new ideas, and applying those ideas to life. And I really liked that idea of the law.
That's awesome. So after you became a lawyer, you got into civil litigation. You worked for a big law firm.
I did. We had 50 to 60 attorneys in St. Louis. It was a firm called the Stoller Partnership. It was a great corporate law firm in St. Louis, led by a guy named Charles Segal, who since passed, but we've named our youngest child after Charles.
Really?
Yeah.
You liked him that much, huh?
I did. He was a great lawyer and a great friend. He taught me when I was about 10 years old how to shake hands. That's when I met him, and I kind of gave the typical...
How do you shake hands?
Firmly. Let someone know. Let someone know you're there. So every time I shake someone's hand, I see Charles in the back of my head telling me as a 10-year-old boy how to shake hands.
That's awesome.
He was a very good friend to our family, so it was a good memorial to name our child after him.
That's awesome. So how did you transition from that big law firm into what you're doing now?
Good question. When I started practicing law in 2002.
Okay.
So the internet tech revolution was really in its infancy. In 2001, I got a Gmail address, and it was still in their early beta program. I started a software company in law school designed to put ads into MP3s, and that failed miserably, but the idea still survived.
Okay.
So when I went to practice law in St. Louis, I was the only person in the firm that had any idea how computers and software worked and what the idea was behind it. So the firm put me in charge of their tech group. What technologies do we need to buy? Stoller didn't have much in technology when I started, but we trimmed down the Westlaw contract. We got convertible laptops for everyone, BlackBerries way back when,
Yeah.
and started to bring the firm into the technical age.
All right.
And through managing the Westlaw contract, I made a lot of contacts over at Thomson Reuters. It was just Thomson then,
Right.
and Westlaw. And there were some opportunities to bring what I did at Stoller to the entire legal market
Through Westlaw.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So there, one of the problems that firms had back before Westlaw Next was released, so we're talking very early 2000s, was how do you recover costs for legal research? How do you put it on a bill in a way that a client is going to want to pay for it?
Yeah, it's hard to billable hour, the research side of things.
Yeah, and it gets to cost. So attorneys need to run 150% at every matter that they have to get the best result.
Right.
And attorneys will walk through walls and they'll spend every penny to get that best result. That's not the best way to run a business. So what we saw in the early 2000s with legal research was law firms would have say a $50,000 a month bill to Westlaw, but they weren't billing that back to clients. There was an anxiety, is a client going to pay for this? Do I want to put it on the bill? Clients would push back. They just see a line item on the bill that said research. So at Stoller, we implemented a policy that every time legal research was conducted on Westlaw, you had to enter a valid matter number. So we had some software that would ping our matter database. So
that's smart.
An attorney could not do legal research
without attaching it to a matter, therefore making it billable.
Correct. So instead of 99999 to build a research to, that number was blocked. So the attorney had to put it on a bill. And then they had to enter a description of what they were doing. And what we got was good descriptions. And we found when clients saw value from the work that was being delivered, they were more willing to pay full value for that work.
So what kind of descriptions were showing up that the client was seeing at that point?
Originally, it was just research or Westlaw.
Right.
And then it would be, a description would be research on propriety of XYZ in ABC matter.
Okay,
Research
so it was more relevant.
It was more of a legal issue.
Okay.
So the client would see that legal issue and then say, yeah, I see that legal issue. I saw the document that was created from it, and there's a $2,000 legal research charge. That has value to me because I know
you got something out of it.
I got something out of it. If it just said legal research,
they don't know the result.
Right. They're going to redline it. They're going to call their attorney. They're going to be upset. You got a customer, a client that isn't happy. So when you have more transparency in what you're doing, we found that the clients were more willing to pay. Right. So in the example of the firm I went to, that I was working at, when I started with that, we were recovering about 20% of the Westlaw bill. 6 months after implementing those policies, we were recovering 80% of the Westlaw bill. So our cost for Westlaw went down dramatically. Yeah. And it worked out for Westlaw. We had a great relationship with them. And through that, Westlaw recognized, I think, that was a concern. And so I went and joined the Westlaw team and helped develop the Westlaw Next research platform.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how long did you work for Westlaw?
I was at Thomson Reuters for 10 years. I was on the Westlaw Next project from 2008. We released in 2010. Okay. And after we released, I did a lot of traveling related to Westlaw, and then got into the API, the platforms team at Thomson Reuters. So working with their API platform and their content acquisition servers. Okay. Highly nerdy stuff.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
But it was gathering the content for Westlaw and other Thomson Reuters products to deliver to the customers.
Okay, that makes sense. So what made you leave the big law firm that you originally
had? It was a struggle. My wife and I had a lot of discussions about it because I truly love the law. Yeah. I really, it's going to sound strange, I love the Constitution. I think it's fantastic. But I also have a crazy passion for technology. And so the Westlaw opportunity was a great combination of both. I could use my legal education and I could use my passion for technology. I have no technological schooling. It's all self-taught, and combine the two. when I went to Charles and said, I've got this opportunity to go to Westlaw,
Yeah.
I phrased it in a way where I thought he would say, no, stay here, we'll give you a raise. And he looked at me and said, that makes a lot of sense.
Really?
And he called in the other partners. He said, come here, listen to this opportunity. And everyone just kind of said, yeah.
And they just supported it.
And I said, well, wait a second, that's not the way it's supposed to go.
You're like, I didn't really mean to take it.
Yeah, you're supposed to offer me more money. So Wesley, it was a great opportunity. I'm glad I did it. I'm still friends with a lot of great attorneys at Stoller that we still interact with that are kind of spread out around the country. But having that combination of love of law and love of technology, it made sense.
What other issues besides some of the technological inefficiencies did you see in the big law firm?
When I was in law school, half my class wanted to get into business.
Yeah.
There was the tech boom. And I remember when pets.com went public when I was in law school, and then it crashed. So there's that real big desire to get into business. And so half my class had MBAs, or they were doing JD MBAs. I went to Pepperdine's, got a great JD MBA program. So I kind of grew up in legal education combining law and business.
Okay.
I was really surprised to learn how little lawyers know
applied.
About running a business.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked in restaurants and managed restaurants prior to law school. So when you manage a restaurant, you're running a business.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got profit, you've got loss, you've got customer service, you have employees. You have to manage not only the psychology of it, but the finances of it.
Right, everything. It's a huge balance.
It's an absolutely huge balance, and where can you find?
You go any inefficiency, and your restaurant will die. It will go out of business.
Especially in restaurants. Yeah, exactly. And so when I started practicing law, it was really surprising to me how many lawyers, although they represented business people, C-levels, executives, directors, and their businesses, didn't understand how to run their own business.
Right.
Didn't understand that, if you put it on the bill, you got a better chance of recovering it than if you don't put it on the bill.
Right.
Because the worst the client is going to say is no.
Yeah.
Right, and if they pay the bill, great, you've got that money coming in.
Swallowing of that overhead that they don't necessarily need to do.
Exactly. Just creating more and more cost to the firm, which then at the end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year is less money to distribute to the partners.
Yeah.
And then my position as an associate was less money to distribute to the associates.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now that you are on your own and you've created Casefriend, what's the hardest part of running your own business?
The hardest part about running the business right now, I love what I do. I feel personally that I'm in the right place. So even the challenges, I love the challenges, things that are difficult during the day. So it's hard to find something to say that is hard.
What are the challenges?
The biggest challenge is generating leads.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of trying to find the leads. It's not something I'm good at. And finding people that are good at that is probably my biggest challenge right now. I think in running a business as the leader, whether it's a law firm or a company like Legal Facts that has the Casefriend product, I can't do everything. I don't know everything. I want to find the best people to do the job and give them all the resources they need to just knock it out of the park.
Absolutely.
And the biggest challenge I have is the lead generation. We have people on the team that have networks. I've got my own network. So as a young startup, we're working through the networks. But the biggest challenge, I think, is probably generating the business leads. So
you created Casefriend 9 months ago, correct?
Casefriend, the product, was released to the public 9 months ago.
Okay, but you've been working on it for...
Well, actually, my partner, he developed what became Casefriend for his law firm. So he started a law firm, and he didn't have the capital to buy everything that a law firm needs: copiers, scanners, secretaries, legal assistants. So as he was a buddy of mine from law school, and actually one of the godfathers to one of my kids.
Oh.
And he said, hey, I want to start this law firm. You're in legal tech. What are the tools available?
Mm-hmm.
And when I practiced law, I had a client that owned some commercial retail space.
Okay.
So, the strip malls with the grocery store.
Yeah.
And then you've got all like the massage and the
Right.
cooking and the flowers.
The salon. Yeah.
Yeah. They owned a couple dozen of those in the St. Louis area.
Mm-hmm.
And I did their rent and possession cases. And those tenants outside the grocery stores frequently would fail to pay rent, and we'd have to, try to collect rent and
Mm-hmm.
work with them. And so at any time I'd have 15 to 20 cases. And it was very difficult to manage in Redwells and paper form. So I created an Access database where a paralegal, when a new case would come in, she would enter the data, and then I could go to the database to see all the information about the case.
Right.
And what I was able to do with that was then generate reports
Mm-hmm.
and deliver it to the client and say, here's what happened this week. And the
Okay.
client loved it because
Yeah.
the client was getting these weekly reports.
Number one complaint from clients is lack of communication from their attorney.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And some attorneys, I've found, even with Casefriend and talking about the reporting functionality and transparency that Casefriend offers, half the attorneys get anxious about sharing that information with their clients.
Why do you think that is?
I could only speculate.
Yeah.
I could only speculate, but I think what happens is when information is shared, if it generates a conversation, if someone is unable to engage in that conversation thoughtfully, it will create anxiety.
Okay.
But then if you're providing a service to a client who's giving you money, it's probably a good business model to be able to talk intelligently and thoughtfully about the services that you're providing and what you're asking money for. There are a lot of things that get in the way of those conversations.
Yeah.
And I think in Casefriend's model, when we talk to our customers that have that anxiety, we show them in the product how that conversation can really be, the anxiety of that conversation can be avoided
Right.
by using the Casefriend product, by organizing content as it comes in, managing the content in our interface. So when that report's delivered, it lowers any challenges by the client.
I agree with you on some of that. I think that in my experience in dealing with attorneys and their lack of communication with clients, I don't think it's necessarily that they don't know what they're talking about. I think a lot of it is that anxiety comes from a place of creating their own value and justifying their own value. Because I feel like every conversation an attorney has with their client, they're justifying the bill. And the cool thing about Casefriend is when you do generate those reports, it's very easy to say, this is the value that you have paid for, this is the value that I've
That's right.
provided, and it just kind of takes that, I'm smart and you pay for it. And I feel like a lot of attorneys feel like trying to explain that to clients is what creates that anxiety.
Yeah,
and that does take that out.
I agree. I also think, in addition to what you said, it's the tools the attorneys are using. If you're a firm and you're...
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. If you're stuck with Redwells, manila folders, and paper,
Yeah.
it's going to be much more difficult for you to keep up to speed with everything that's going on.
Right.
And even, we call it, at Casefriend, we call it digital overhead. If you buy technology that doesn't add value to your firm, you're buying overhead. We talked about it a few minutes
Right.
ago.
Yeah.
With Casefriend, the tools we've created are designed to put in front of the attorney all the information about their cases. And so they can easily
Summarized
track.
all together in that little report.
Yep, you can see a list of all the cases. You can customize milestones. So as a firm, if you've got policies on when certain actions are supposed to take place, whether you're a large firm or a small firm, Casefriend can track that because we have attorneys record events, the actions that they encounter every day.
Right.
So it's very easy then to stay up to speed, to know at a moment's notice what's going on in that Johnson case. Summer called me today and she wants an update. I don't have to panic because I can just open up Casefriend and I know
all right
exactly where the case stands and I can explain it to Summer.
So if that's the case, let me ask you this, because Mott Legal is very much all about attorneys only do necessary attorney things, and everything else is passed down to somebody that you can pay less money for, which makes it cheaper for the client, makes it more efficient for the attorney. So if that's the case, if you have everything in those events and it's clearly written, because I know the system we're using now, we have a notes section, and then we have a communications section, and then we have document section, and so you kind of have to flip back and forth to figure out what's going on with the case. So if someone calls, Summer Johnson calls, and the receptionist answers, they're kind of like guessworking, trying to figure out the client's question when all they really want to know is what happened at the hearing last week. And so they're kind of back and forth between the documents and the communications and the emails and the notes that have been given by the attorney. So if that is clearly marked in all the events, it seems like a lot of those conversations can be resolved between a receptionist, a paralegal, a legal assistant, rather than the attorney needed to spend every week talking to every client.
Yep, absolutely. And we have customers, one customer in particular, that completely shifted their operational model. So all phone calls get directed to the receptionist, and the receptionist has access to Casefriend.
Right.
So when a client calls in and asks what the status of a case is, that receptionist is able to provide the answer. So the attorney doesn't have to explain it. We also have a client portal. So a client doesn't even need to make the phone call.
Oh, wow.
They can just log in and look at a read-only version of their case to see what the last event was.
Do you think that could be intimidating to some attorneys, where the client can log in and see every single event that had taken place on their
It is.
portal?
It is. But thinking about the name of the podcast, Millennial Attorneys are coming into the market.
Yeah.
And they have a very different perspective on customer service. They have a very different perspective on the practice of law. They don't really typically, I'm going to generalize here, but millennials typically are not fans of leather-bound chairs on the 35th floor overlooking the city. Millennials as a group feel, I can be productive in a coffee shop.
Right.
Here are the tools to be productive in a coffee shop. I think millennials as a group are more transparent than some of the more seasoned generations in the practice of law. So having a product that is available now to millennial attorneys who are coming out of law school and starting to practice and building their own practice, I think we're going to see a definite change in the attorney-client
I agree with you. A lot of our clients, when they first come to us, they believe in this old law system where they hold the information and therefore they hold the power.
Right.
But millennials, I think, up and coming, they understand that there is no holding information. They can get online, they can find out whatever they want to find out, wrong, right, 8 different perspectives, and they're going to come to their attorney with some knowledge.
Yeah.
And so that transparency, I think, is key. And I think once attorneys grasp their value and understand that what they have, the knowledge that they have, is not about holding the knowledge, but about the expertise of the knowledge, about using and interpreting the law to the client's best advantage.
Absolutely.
And I think when they understand that that is their value, not that they have 800 law books behind their desk, then that transparency is going to be more of a tool and less of a hindrance.
Yeah, absolutely. And clients are in control. They're the customer. They're the ones paying the attorneys.
And that's new too, that it wasn't like that before. It was very like, you had to come to me because I'm the attorney. You have to pay me what I tell you to pay me. And it's not like that. It's a service industry now.
Yeah. Prior to technology, an attorney could kind of cordon off their information from their client and everyone else. And now with technology and technologically savvy clients, if you have a client that says, I know you have the ability to share this information. Yeah. And that's a focus for us, is not only empowering the attorney to be more effective, to deliver value, but let the client realize the value. If the client knows their law firm is using Casefriend, then the client should realize that law firm doesn't have as much overhead. Right. I'm not going to see crazy bumps in my hourly rates. I know that my hourly rate is not going to have built in the cost of labor for all of these people who need to scan documents because that law firm is using Casefriend. And then if the law firm uses Casefriend, the client can also use Casefriend as well in a variety of different ways. So we at Casefriend want to take the silos, the client and attorney silo, and really destroy them so that the client and counsel are closer together, and it's more of a partnership between the two rather than a siloed.
I think that's definitely the demand in the industry.
Yeah, there are a lot of clients that like that idea because the clients are the business people.
Right.
They know how to run a business.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They don't practice law. And so a lot of times businesses, even individuals who are savvy with business, realize that law firms, $1,000 an hour for a partner in New York, what are you paying for it? You're paying rent, you're paying for conference room space, you're paying for killer AV equipment, you're paying for 6 paralegals on the case, and really what you want is you want the brain power of the lawyer. You want the lawyer.
That's what you want to pay for.
Right. So if we can automate some of the repetitive tasks that law firms typically have to pay for, whether it's high labor or whether it's office space, then they can deliver either the same quality or higher quality product to their client just at a lower overhead cost.
I think you're right. I think those business savvy clients are less patient with the inefficiencies on those bills.
Absolutely.
Like, what is this for? I run my business very efficient. I account for every hour, every penny that's spent, every pencil that comes through the office. What are you accounting for, and what am I paying for?
Absolutely.
It makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
So tell me how Casefriend works as far as like streamlining those legal operations.
Yep. So with Casefriend, our focus is on events, the actions that attorneys and staff at law firms undertake on a particular matter. And each event is recorded in Casefriend on our timeline. And that timeline is presented in a reverse chronological fashion. So when you open it up, you can see the most recent activity at the top. And then documents, with PDF, Word, Excel, can be added to an event. So if you're drafting a document or
everything is right there instead of having to go into
there.
Documents and finding the date.
Correct. When I practiced back in my day at Stoller, and I think this was common, still is at a lot of law firms, we had a manila folder.
Yeah.
The 2 ACO binders punched through and the little binder clip on it. And there was an index and there were tabs.
Right.
And every time a document would come in, it would be recorded in that pleadings index.
Yeah.
Our timeline takes that concept and automates it.
Right.
So that's what you look at when you look at a Casefriend timeline. You see that pleadings index, and rather than going to a tab, you click it. But in the tangible world, when you have a tab, you just have the document. You don't have the time entry. You don't have any billing related to it. You don't have a calendar entry. You don't have the emails associated with it. So at Casefriend, we take that pleadings index and then kind of modernize it with technology. I have
Give us some context.
Yeah, I've got the document, and then right on it is all the time entries related to that particular event.
Okay. That's super smart.
Yep, and then thank you. And then the real killer feature is how documents are added into Casefriend.
Okay.
We're focusing on one of the big costs for law firms is if you receive a bunch of paper or a PDF with 500 pages.
Right.
How do you disassemble that and then put it into the document management system? We've got some really cool proprietary tools which automate that and have reduced the time to intaking documents, whether it's a new matter or it's a sub-in matter or a matter was transferred from another firm. We can get the information related to that matter into Casefriend in a contextually relevant way faster than really any other service out there.
So basically it becomes, in a lot of ways, a legal assistant, and it with less cost, I'm sure.
It does, yeah.
And so you have you don't have to pay a person with human error to do this for you and train someone on a regular basis because there's turnover. It just does it automatically for you.
Absolutely. And that legal assistant can be valuable, more valuable to the firm if they're not doing these
scanning,
repetitive, low-value tasks. Let's get the legal assistant on the high-value tasks because a client isn't going to be willing to pay for scanning documents.
Right.
Really, I'm a client. We have a law firm, and I'm
certainly not the hour that it takes to disassemble all those documents.
Right. So scan documents. You're my law firm, right? That's part of the
your
business,
job. Yeah.
Right? So the law firm builds that cost into their hourly rates. Well, if you can eliminate that cost, right, you can have more competitive hourly rates, and you can take that labor and reapply it to something more valuable, something that, your paralegal did XYZ for 3 hours, I got value from that.
Right.
I'm going to actually pay you for that.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. So who is your ideal client?
Every lawyer in America.
Every single one.
Every single one. Actually, to be serious, as a startup, we're focusing on workers' comp attorneys in California. Really, that's our core competency. Okay. So they're a very important to us. I think the ideal customer would be an attorney just starting out, or a small law firm that wants to realize as much positive margin as they can, and use technology.
And streamline those processes.
Exactly. But we also are going to, like I said, the win this week was this 100-person law firm. So really any attorney that wants to realize value and get rid of what we call digital overhead.
Right.
If you're paying for technology and it's not adding value or it's not creating efficiencies, it's overhead.
Right.
And if you want to reduce that overhead, that really is the attorney that we want to provide our service to.
Awesome. I like it. What's your greatest piece of advice for young lawyers who want to break away from big law and start their own firm?
Buckle up. just do it and buckle up. If you want to break away, I'll tell a story.
Okay,
let's
hear it.
When I practiced law. I had a buddy of mine practiced for a year in St. Louis, and after a year, he got something like a $500 a year raise, and he was not happy.
Yeah.
No one would have been happy. It was kind of like, we're not going to fire you, we want you to quit kind of raise.
Yeah.
And he took a breath and said, I'm going to go out on my own, and I'm going to do traffic tickets. And he and I sat down and built this cool website where people could enter traffic ticket information. In Missouri, it's very easy to challenge traffic tickets.
Okay.
And through that, he just slowly, 1 week, I got $1,000 worth of traffic tickets. I got 2,000.
Right.
And it slowly kind of snowballed.
Built.
But if he didn't take that first step, well, and now he's bringing in millions of dollars a year in a PI practice. And he got to that PI level from the traffic tickets.
Right.
So it just created this base of clients.
Yeah.
And when one of them got in a bar fight or got injured on the doctor's table, he was the only attorney they knew.
Yeah.
It took a couple years to build it. He took the risk. He lived like a pauper for a while.
Lots of ramen.
Lots of ramen, exactly. He drove a beat-up Chevy Blazer for a while. But he bit the bullet, took a breath, did it.
Yeah.
And now he's got the success to show for it. So
how long did it take him?
I think it was about 3 years before he got the one big case that really opened the floodgates for him.
I feel like it's so interesting to me how going through business school, and you probably got some of this at Pepperdine, but going through business school, you learn a business is not profitable for the first 3 to 5 years. You're not going to make money.
My wife will agree with you on that.
That's what they teach you getting
Right.
your MBA. And somehow attorneys graduate law school and they think they're going to instantly own a Mercedes and have their fancy briefcases, and it's just not that way.
Right.
Whether you go and work for big law or whether you are out on your own, it takes time to build that, and you kind of have to sacrifice.
It absolutely does.
Law school doesn't create income.
No, it doesn't. At Pepperdine, I think one of the career service people said, if you live like a lawyer in law school, you'll live like a law student when you're a lawyer.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I think that's true for entrepreneurs.
I think it's super relevant, yeah.
Entrepreneurs as well. We're not going to buy a car right now with the startup. We're not going to buy cars or anything now that requires any kind of payment as we get our business off the ground. But you also brought up like the fancy suits and briefcases.
Yeah.
Those are other things that add to the cost of being a lawyer.
Right.
And I'm really, really pleased to see lawyers now not believing that a three-piece suit is necessary to wear every day.
Right.
Because that's a ridiculous cost to expect law students to come out and start paying.
Yeah.
You don't need to wear a three-piece suit. I can sit and do my job as a lawyer because as a lawyer, this is what's valuable.
Right.
And if I'm not going to court or I'm not going to meet with a client, showing up in shorts and a t-shirt should be perfectly acceptable if my work product is there.
Yeah.
If you're delivering high quality on time, it really shouldn't matter. You shouldn't have to invest the money in the trappings of old school lawyering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's refreshing to see attorneys, not having to cover tattoos or
exactly
showing up in some jeans, and it has nothing to do with their product, has nothing to do with what's inside their brain.
Absolutely.
I've met amazing attorneys that are rolling up their pants and come in a too big shirt to work to talk to their clients, and that they do amazing things in interpretation of law. And I've seen the same three-piece suit presenting errors give nothing to their clients.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Just don't call a bench of appellate court judges y'all like I did. I got a little I know y'all have read
Oh, that didn't go over.
I was in a suit and I said y'all.
Oh man. Yep. What comes out of your mouth is more important than what you're wearing.
That's exactly right.
So final question, where do you see the legal industry in the next 10 years?
I would like to see the legal industry, I see the legal industry from the Casefriend position.
Yeah.
Right? And I would like to see the legal industry realize that there are costs associated with technology that are not returning value.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see those costs eliminated.
Right.
I want to see the clients have more control over their attorney's billing. Now, that's going to scare a lot of attorneys. But what I mean by that is clients create billing guidelines, whether you're an individual or a business. These are my expectations. And right now, attorneys don't have any powerful tools to automate that or make sure that they're working within the confines of the billing guidelines. So with Casefriend, I'd like to see clients be able to deliver those restrictions to the software attorneys use, so attorneys don't have to think about it. They can just do their job.
They can just do what they do best.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure. AI is an interesting. It's in its infancy.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see how attorneys adapt to AI. As a fan of the Constitution, I want to make sure the human element in terms of argument and developing arguments remains. So I'm very interested to see how AI develops within the practice of law and how that's going to create either better outcomes or better cost savings. If it doesn't create cost savings, then I don't think it's going to be much of a benefit to the legal community.
Interesting. I love it. Do you have anything that you want to plug? Your website, obviously, casefriend.com.
Yep, casefriend.com. Go to the website, check out what we've got, schedule a demo. I'll have either myself or a product manager, John Phillips, or Jeremy Easterman from our team get on and walk you through the product and see if it's a fit for your firm.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for listening to The Millennial Attorney. If you got something out of our show this week, please share our podcast with a friend. Like us on Facebook, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, or rate us on iTunes or Spotify. If you have a story to tell about what's made your law firm better, we want to hear it. If you have questions, suggestions, or would like to be a guest on our podcast, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at info@mottlegal.com. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram at mottlegal, or follow us on Twitter at Made for Lawyers. Thank you so much and have a great week.